I'm Gabriella Chilla, and this is Myths and Legends. I'll be discussing different myths and legends around the world. First off, we're gonna start with the stuff that some people might not know. Mythology is the study of myths, which are a traditional story. Most of the time, it explains how the world around us works, and it involves a supernatural being or event. There are a large variety of myths, from creation myths to myths that just kind of make you wonder, what did I just read? Every region of the world has a variation of myths. And I'm going to be starting with Mesopotamia. Mesopotamia is one of the oldest civilizations we have written works and records of. It reigned from 3100 BC to 539 BC. So I'm going to be starting with their myths. Mesopotamia was located between the Tigris and Euphrates rivers. The area will now be modern-day Iraq, eastern parts of Syria, southern Turkey, and regions along the Turkish, Syrian, and Iran-Iraq borders. There are also several different civilizations within Mesopotamia, like Sumer, Assyria, the Kassite kingdom, the Hittite kingdom, and of course, the well-known Babylon city. It is why there are different versions of the same myth. The only difference is that some of the names of the gods will be different. And this is because different groups existed during different regions and times, because of the fact that it is known as the Fertile Crescent, it is constantly taken over by a larger, stronger army because of the bigger army and diplomacy rule. Now, it is not known who originally started to speak and write down these myths, because these were, before they became myths, they were a religion. So it is unknown who started the religion and who started writing down these these stories, like the Epic of Gilgamesh, the Epic of Creation, Atrahasis. But we do know that laws were created, like they were given to the people from the gods themselves, and victories of the various kings were associated with the gods' favor. Like, whoever won, the gods seemed to favor more than the other. The gods were also considered involved with the establishment and enforcement of treaties between the political powers of the day. Now that we are on the topic of the gods and goddesses, of ancient Mesopotamia. They will be different and varied depending on which story you are reading, along with who's related to who. A few of the gods include Anu, the sky god. He is also the father of Enlil, Adad, Gara, Shara, and sometimes, depending on which story you're reading, Ishtar. Enlil is a god that's not really defined who exactly that god is and what his domain is. It depending on what story you're reading, he just kind of shows up and there's nothing really describing what his domain is. Like, Anu is the sky god, Jara is a fire god, Adad is the god of storms, Ishtar is the goddess of love, of sexual love and war, but Enlil is not really defined in the stories that we're able to find, at least the fragments of what archaeologists and people like them were able to find. So it's relatively unknown who exactly Enlil is and what exactly is his domain. So, moving on from Enlil, of course, Adad is god of storms, Ishtar is the goddess of sexual love and war. We'll be going over her. She's actually in quite a few stories. Jara is a fire god, and there's Ea, who is the god of fresh water, wisdom, and incarnations. Shamash is the sun god, who is also the son of Enlil. And there is. This is really difficult to pronounce. Ireshigal, a goddess who is the queen of their underworld, which is called multiple things like the netherworld, Kanugi, sometimes Earth for some reason. I don't know why the last one. And like I said before, depending on which story you're reading, the gods are going to be related to their close relationships relations will be different. Like in one story, Ishtar, goddess of sexual love and war. In one story, she's the daughter of Anu. But in another one, not only is she the sister of Irishigal, goddess of the netherworld, Kanugi, but she's also the daughter of Sin, who is the god who is a moon god, and he's also the god who represents the city of Ur. So things will get confusing. So when I'm talking about particular myths, I will briefly talk about which gods are in the story and any other characters that I haven't mentioned before. Speaking of Kanugi, the Netherworld, just to get this out of the way, Kanugi, the Netherworld, and any other underworld of these myths, they don't equal hell. The confusion of hell, mostly by Hollywood, it's kind of goes into the Greeks' name, sometimes referring to the underworld as Hades, who is also god of the dead and ruled the underworld. And it's also translation's error. So once we get closer to discussing Greek mythology, we will be going over that translation issue. And it will be a while because this is just me doing it. It takes a lot of time. I have to purchase. I prefer purchasing physical copies of books. That's how I prefer them. I'm a bit of old school with this, which is weird since I'm only 20. But I grew up with parents who had me and my brothers later in life. But I purchase physical books. I prefer it that way. In case you're curious of what books I'm reading Myths from Mesopotamia, Creation, the Flood, and Gilgamesh and Others. And it's an Oxford classic. I'm also going through Penguin Classics, the Epic of Gilgamesh, which not only has the Epic of Gilgamesh, but also has smaller Sumerian poems. So I may discuss a few of those poems as well. The Babylonian Genesis. We'll definitely be discussing this in the next video, because next video I'm going to be going over creation myths. And this is more of a kind of reference book more than anything, which it'll help me lead to other myths. But other than that, it's not really what I was hoping for. In case you're curious, it's called Sumerian Mythology by a study of his spiritual and literary achievement in the 3rd millennium BC by Samuel and Noah Kramer. And you may or may not want to get this because this is a revised edition. It's still pretty old. The copyright was 1961, so you may or may not want to get that. I just thought it would be good for me to have. So, anyway, the next time we'll be going over creation myths. And boy, does it get violent. I mean, really violent, like war between the gods and rebelling gods, and I just can't wait to talk about it. It's just so bloody insane. It's just so that's what we're gonna be doing next time.